My guest today is Sifu Shkar Sharif, a martial artist in London, England. He teaches Tiger Crane Kung Fu and Shuang Tai Chi at his full-time school in Islington. Born in Kurdistan, northern Iraq, Shkar came into the world during a time of turmoil and war. Both his parents were Peshmerga fighters and political dissidents, fighting against the oppressive regime of Saddam Hussein. From a young age, Shkar was drawn to the spiritual and mystical and has trained in and explored several traditions and helps him understand what the masters of old were alluding to in their lessons. These include Sufi mysticism, Vipassana and Dzogchen meditation, and several Hermetic traditions into which he was initiated. Shkar Sharif, I welcome you to Transformations.
I just wanted to say, when I first started training, so it must have been my first or second, maybe third year, I can't quite remember. But I remember saying to my teacher at the time, do we have any books on our style? And he said, not on our style, but the book that's closest is, I think it was called The Essence of Ngor,
Oh,
something like that. So I bought that book, and I think there was pictures of you in there.
oh no.
So it's a bit, it's funny how the world turns. Me as a beginner, I was 16, 17,
Yeah,
and now
and here
it's an
you
honor
are.
to be talking to you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think it's The Way of Gocho. It's a red cover.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember a bit, can't, I think it's in that book, but I remember a bit where it was talking about how the history of the style, there was a school where the entrance door was on the
On the
second
second
floor or
floor.
something. Yeah. And I was thinking, wow. And that got me into all this light body method stuff and
Right.
craziness. Yeah. That was really fun.
It's those fantasy, it's those things that we glom onto as youngsters, as young men, that really pull us into the art. I mean, if it was just fighting, you know, there's not enough there for like a life path, right?
Yeah, it's boring. If you're
You know,
fighting um if your interest is fighting when you've reached 35, 40, then there's something very wrong.
right.
There's
Right.
something
Yeah, you
very
think
wrong.
so.
I agree with that.
So,
Yeah, when I started training, for me at 16, 17, all I wanted to do was spar. All I
yeah,
wanted to do was fight. But then that fades away, doesn't it?
it does completely.
Mhm.
It does. Um, you mentioned about the second floor, with Chogyok Bang's roof, I
Mm.
mean, entrance, which is, I think now parkour, right? Those guys are
Yeah,
doing all
amazing.
Shaolin light skills. I mean, it's
Yeah,
amazing. You don't even have to
it's
learn
yeah.
Kung Fu to do that. It's crazy. They go over buildings. I mean, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm thinking any minute now
Right,
something's
right.
gonna break, but they just woof, it's like they've got no weight on them. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
I think part of it is a mental belief of unfailing, which is what we need to succeed in anything, like especially martial arts or in
Yeah.
meditation. Like, I can do this, I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna fail, and you keep at it. And then when you're in the flow, like in the flow of a martial arts practice, for example, you're just you're just in that zone and you're being carried by spirit. It's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And muscle memory.
a lot of muscle memory.
Yeah.
A lot of muscle
Yeah.
memory helps
Yeah.
spirit. That's the quote
Yeah,
from today's
exactly.
podcast.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We might. I want to start with just two quick questions.
Hey,
Um, for kind of a shortest answer, because then I want to start in somewhere else. But I just want to ask these things for just quick definitions. One, tiger crane tai chi, if you get a brief just description of what it is, and Xuan Yang
so our tiger crane is actually tiger crane kung fu. It's not tiger
kung
crane
fu.
tai chi. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, it's white crane and tai chuan
Oh,
combined. Yeah. So it's the tiger represents tai chuan, and the crane is obviously the white
crane.
crane.
Okay.
So that's what our kung fu system is. It's based on those two ancestors. Obviously,
Okay.
some of our forms have monkey. Our whole body method is based on body dharma, and so it's got a lot of similarities to the five ancestor fists. But
Sure.
we emphasize white crane and Tai Chuan,
Okay.
and the Shuang Yang is a pure white crane soft fist.
Mm,
that's supposed to have come out of the Southern Shaolin Temple. We don't really know its origins. Our patriarch, Master Eng Liang Hua, who started our lineage in 1954 in Singapore, he apparently learned it from a medicine peddler
mm,
who'd learned it from a monk from the Shaolin Temple. So it's a soft fist that it looks exactly like Chai Chi when it's done, but it's based on the White Crane system. Um, yeah, that's the short answer for that.
you started as a youngster at 16 and you were
Yeah,
introduced to an auntie who was a Sufi. And
correct. Yeah.
so you started following that path, which I'd like to get to at the end of this conversation, as well as the Hermetics and things like that as part of your life path, you know. Were you raised in, you're in the UK now. Were you raised there? Were you raised in the Middle East?
No, I came to the UK at the age of 5.
Okay.
So um, the first few years of my life was fleeing war. So I'm
Right.
Kurdish from northern Iraq.
Okay.
So it was during Saddam Hussein, the genocide and all of that. So we fled to Iran, then we fled to the UK. So I've been living in the UK since I was 5.
Oh,
Uh, but since I've gone back. I've gone back and seen family and stuff like that. But yeah, I've lived in the UK, been educated in the UK.
I mean, that's your home, you know, that's what you
Yes,
know.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is it that got you interested to first study martial arts?
It was very, very mundane. A friend of mine, I was in here it's called secondary school. I think it might be high school where you guys are. A friend of mine was saying, "Oh, I'm doing kung fu at a local school. Do you want to come along?" And I went, "Okay." So yeah, that was it. I went along and 16 years old and I loved it and I just stayed. It's basically that mundane. There was nothing profound.
Right.
Yeah.
And what style of kung fu or what organization was that or group?
So it was the Tiger Crane combination.
It
It
was the
was
Tiger Crane.
yeah,
Okay.
it was called Fuji and White Crane Kung Fu. And I trained with them for I trained with my one instructor for 13 or 14 years.
Wow.
And it was like proper training, 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, training on my own. And then, like happens with martial arts schools, we fell out, and that's when I decided to go my own way and started my own school.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
happens a lot. Two
yeah,
tigers in one cave. I mean, it's hard for a teacher to have a student who comes up and excels because there's so few of them, right? I mean, you can have lots of students, but few of them rise to the top. And then to have that student inside the school and trying, that's why as a young adult, you need to move out of your parents' house at some point,
I
even
agree.
for a while,
I
and
agree.
you have different life, a different background, different experiences than your teacher. So therefore, there's different things you want to look at, different arts, different teachers, different practices,
Yeah,
not
and
all
I
martial arts. Yeah,
no, I agree, and I think I'm a big believer that my art and my teacher's arts should be different because
right.
my art is how it touches my soul and it expresses out. If I'm a carbon copy of my teacher, and if my teacher's a carbon copy of his teacher, then yeah, I don't think that's really embodying the art in the truest sense. I think
Right.
one needs to allow it to touch them at their deepest place, their life experiences, their trauma, their upbringing, and express that art through that lens. And that's why I think it's beautiful, the Chinese martial arts, especially.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people look at martial arts as, you have to emulate your master. Well, only in the beginning, just like if
Yeah,
you were learning an instrument, you have to emulate the fingering and the tonal skills and the rhythm. And then when you have it, that's when you have your own expression, which is why not everyone sounds like Yo-Yo Ma, or
yeah,
whomever. Not everybody can write songs the same way, even they know they may have had the same basic training. And for some reason in martial arts, it's this loyalty thing. And you can be very loyal to your teacher, but still do your own thing, you
yeah.
know?
No, I agree. Yeah,
Right.
100%. We're in
Uh,
agreement.
so yeah. But I can see how it's clear to see how a lot of teachers uh, take it the wrong way and just like to break ties, like how dare you for what I've done or whatever. And
Yeah. And
oftentimes it's not necessary.
it's something I've had to work on as well myself, because that's the environment I was raised in, like the martial arts school environment I was raised in.
Yeah.
And then when I had my own students, I could see in the early stages of my teaching how there were certain things that students did that caused a reaction in me in that
Mm,
way. And I thought, I don't like this reaction in me. This reaction in me is harmful to me, and it's harmful to the students if I allow it to be expressed. And, you know, as a martial artist, we're constantly trying to change and grow and refine. I've tried to do the same thing as a teacher. So my students often laugh and say, the Shakar that was teaching 5 years ago is not the same Shakar that's teaching now. And I'm like, well, that's how it should be. My
right.
martial arts is not the same as it was 5 years ago as it is now. So I think, yeah, I think a good thing a teacher can do is constantly look at how their own reactions are to students and what students do, and question it and go, is that the correct reaction? Is that rooted in ego, or is that rooted in service to my students? Because if it's not rooted in service to your students, then I think you should probably fix it.
Yeah. And that's very self-reflective of you. I mean, that shows that there's been some advanced self-inquiry that you can even stop yourself and think, wait a minute, what is this feeling coming up inside
Mm.
of me? And is it okay for me? Rather than just how dare you? And it's them and they're questioning me all the time. And which is
Yeah,
what we get a lot. I mean, not just in martial arts, parenting, teachers,
yeah,
bosses and jobs, but luckily it seems like there are more and more teachers out there, not necessarily martial art teachers,
mm,
bringing people along on a path of self-inquiry, to help
yeah,
more people kind of grow and expand, because that's a really, really high skill to have, an important essential skill, that you can, you know, people don't make you mad or upset or angry or happy. You're joyous around them or angry around that those feelings come up in your own
exactly.
body. So thinking them through is and being aware of them and processing them is a really great place to be. So,
Yeah,
your students are in a good place in your school.
I hope so. I think with me, even since I was young, I found dishonesty very difficult.
Hmm.
And the most dishonest we are is with ourselves. And for some reason, I could just pick up when there was a mismatch between my emotional reaction to something and what I thought was the right thing. And so the emotional reaction would rise. But I know that if a student's saying, I'm going to train tomorrow at a different school and I want to check it out, my brain goes, well, yeah, so what? That's fine. Why not? But the emotional reaction would be possessiveness, right? It would arise. And just straight away inside me, there's no integrity there. It doesn't match. And because I abhor dishonesty, I have to drop the emotion because I know what the right thing is to do. And that's the kind of, I think that's helped me to refine my ability to teach and be self-reflective.
Yeah. Part of the thing we grapple with, or you do as a school owner, is, well, one, as an individual on the path, you want everybody to be able to have their own path, and you're a guide along a certain part of somebody's path. However, you still have to pay rent in your teaching facility and or
Yeah,
insurance, or put food on the
yeah,
table, right? So part of the anger part, I think that knee-jerk reaction comes from, well, if they go there and like it better and I lose a student, that's really not good for the business or my family or
mm,
me
mm,
financially, right? Which means maybe if too many students do it, I can't keep the club open or whatever it is. And that's something as a business owner that is on top of just the emotional piece of, yeah,
yeah.
try many things.
I used to think like that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a huge part of it. But I think I've got to the stage where I think people who are meant to train with you will train with you.
yeah,
If it's their path, they will train with you.
yeah,
And if they're meant to train elsewhere, they're meant to train elsewhere. All I can do is show people who I authentically am,
right.
how I teach, and the people that come and train with me and stay are the people that are meant to come and the I can be as anxious or as possessive about it. If somebody's not meant to be on
Yeah.
that same path with me, they won't be. So there's no point. So I'm a lot more chill and relaxed about that these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. And I bet being chill and relaxed energetically helps clear the space in the club, clears the
Yeah,
space for more students to come in. You're not putting out a block of keep, hold, don't lose, it's just
yeah.
open.
Desperation. There's no
Right.
desperation there.
Right.
Yeah, which is yeah. Our club has grown massively, so it's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is the tiger crane and the Shuang Yang part of the same school, like when you learned it,
Yes,
or two separate schools? Same
yes.
school.
Part of the same
Okay.
school. Yeah. So it was always sold to us as the hard style and the soft style.
Okay.
Do the hard style, do the soft style.
Hmm.
And that's how I teach it as well. I teach it as a they complement and they do complement each other. I would say the Shuangyang is a lot of the body dharma, body method, a
Yeah.
lot of the chi cultivation. There's stretches, opening of the joints, opening of the bodies, working with the harmonies, the six harmonies. We concentrate on a lot of that. And I find in my own practice as I was coming up and in the students that do the Shuangyang, their tiger crane is better. Their
Yeah.
ability to connect up, their movements, the sink, swallow, spit, all of this is much better because they're able to do it on within the Shuangyang as well. I think it's like two approaches meeting at the middle.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, I think in terms of any martial art, to be truly complete and to be healthy, there needs to be a hard and a soft component, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Or, I know so many hard style martial artists who are, in their 60s, 70s, and they can barely walk. They have knee replacements, their hands, they can't grasp with their hands. You need to have something soft, whether you study Tai Chi or Qigong or Nei Gong separately, or this part of your system has to be there. And it's interesting that the style of the Tiger Crane and the Shuang Yang had both together. It shows
yeah.
a good
And
intelligence.
the opposite of you say, I know uh, internal stylists, so Tai Chi stylists who don't have a hard style, and they're very unhealthy. They're
Yes.
very unhealthy. The bodies because with the internal styles, you're always trying to sink, always trying to sink, always trying to sink. There's none of that um, strength. Some people do when they train correctly, but most don't, and then it becomes unhealthy. So you need to have a balance, I reckon.
What were some things maybe in your younger training that you thought were really essential? But as you've grown, over the last 10 years, say that you're like, man, you know what? That used to be first up in your personal training, not for teaching. That was like, yeah, this was your first up. Every day I have to do something that's not really as important as you thought now.
I think when I was younger. Obviously, as a young man, I wanted to do all of the elaborate hand movements and all of the beautiful looking forms and weapons and stuff like this. But the more I've matured in my training, the more I seem to go back to Sanjan, the more I go back to our Sanjan methods. Because for me, the Sanjan informs all of these other things. You can do a beautiful modern wushu like broadsword pattern or a staff pattern. But if you don't have the Sanjan connections, if you don't have the elasticity in the body, I think you don't have the system, or you don't have the style. So for me, when I was younger, boring Sanjan, but and I want to do all of these fancy jumps and this and that. But now I find myself, I just want to do the Sanjan because it's like an onion that you keep peeling. I've been 25 years now, I've been training, and I'm still learning from the Sanjan. It's incredible. I think that would be it.
Well, they say, start each training with Sanjan and do Sanjan until death.
Yeah,
It's it's the mother form of
yeah,
all of Fujian, really, of most of the arts. Have it in some way, in some choreography, but the principles are there regardless of the choreography.
Yeah,
Um,
super important.
well, first, you wrote a book on Sanjan.
Mm,
So I'll put the
yeah,
picture up and I'll put a link down below for the
thank
viewers
you. I
to
appreciate it.
grab a copy. So in writing this book, what kind of outline were you thinking about? Because that's for a reader, it's not for you, right? That's for
Mm,
somebody else, preferably your students who are in your class and then others.
yeah.
You know, what was the outline of thinking of what needs to go first in discussing this? Because you see it as a system, not just a form, right?
Yeah, to me, Sanjan is a system. The initial reason I wrote it was because I had my own students who'd say, "You keep talking about how important Sanjan is. Are there any books on it?" And I was like, I don't think there's any books on Sanjan." And all of the things that I'd want to teach them, if I sat there and talked to them in a class is an hour long. There's no time to talk. So I started just writing notes on what I think is important. And I thought, actually, this is getting quite big. So I was just going to make it a small booklet to give to them. But I thought, actually, I can publish this and make it big. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to break up the different things that Sanjan works on. So a lot of, I think you might agree or you might disagree, I'm not sure, but I think Southern systems from Fujian especially often lack a Nei Gong, an internal component. I think it's probably been lost or it's been ignored. I don't know, but it lacks it. So you see a lot of people stick different systems internals onto their practice,
Right.
and then they're like, oh, uh we do five ancestor fist, or we do white crane, or we do uh Taizu Chuan or whatever. Oh, and we have a Qigong method, the Baduan Jin or something
Right.
like that, Yang family Baduan Jin or something like that. And I wanted to show when I decided that I was going to publish it that actually the Southern Fujian styles has a fully developed Nei Gong process. And of course it does, because the first ancestor is Bodhidharma. Of course
Right.
it does.
Right.
Which is Chan Buddhism. He's the patriarch of Chan Buddhism. How can it not have a, a, a Neigong system of internal cultivation? So I thought what I wanted to do is what I wanted to show within this that we work on the body method. So that's why the first chapter is one of the first chapters on the actual work is the body method, how to align everything, how to fix anything. Then the next chapter I wanted to do on the internal method,
Hmm.
what the mind does during training, what the breath does during the form, what the chi does once you have access to that. And then I want to talk about the final battle, of the three wars, which we describe as the battle with spirit, which is actually just um, takes it beyond the form and takes it into Shen, spirit, and awakening and enlightenment. And I wanted to explore that fully so that people don't have to go and tack on different
Right.
different qigong methods or neigong methods they found from here or there, and say, actually, your system, your first form that you learn, is a full neigong system, has a full cultivation within it. You just haven't been taught how to access it, and this is how I think it should be accessed within my own training. If it speaks to you, then use it.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, even our in our five ancestor fist, our opening set, the Kikun is 8 moves, and it's all of the moves inside. We say Samchen, same thing, are in those 8 moves of the opening. Float,
Yeah,
sink, swallow, spit, turn left, turn right. Rise and sink,
yeah,
uh, breathe and exhale in time with the movement. All of it is inside the opening, and that opening opens every form.
same
Uh,
as us.
yeah, and that opening is also based on an early Yi Jin Jing, the Dajin Fa, or Damo's 12 standing exercises, which
Mm,
is different from the Shaolin one where they're moving into postures, right?
yeah,
Um, and so that Neigong practice was there first, before the next art was added, before Taizu
yeah,
and whatever else. I mean, and without it, there's no body armor, there's no tendon strength, there's no ligament movement, there's no rooting, there's no balance of breath and mind. with movement. So
Completely
I love
agree.
it.
Yeah, completely
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. I don't know if you've seen, I have a book out called Innergate on the,
Yeah, I bought it. I bought it when it
oh, you
came
have
out.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah.
should be quoting from it right now. No, just kidding. But
Uh, I I like that I saw Sifu Russ in it a lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he was just over at your place, right? Teaching with
Yeah, yeah,
you in the
yeah.
UK?
He came and did some Hacker Dragon
Oh,
uh
nice.
here, which was good, and I showed him around London. We had
Nice.
some time. We went in lots of like, yeah, he's a lovely guy.
He is. He is one of my closest friends, like my brother. I mean, closer than a friend, you know.
Wonderful.
And
It's really
he's
good.
one of these guys, like we were talking about earlier, who comes up under me in Gocho, right? And then has his own way of doing things that's completely different than anything I showed him. And I'm okay with it, you know, and he spreads his wings and he's out flying with it, completely. And there's a lot
Yeah, that's
that he's
wonderful.
offering there that's different than I would have thought of the art in the terms that he thinks of it. And then you
Yeah,
got to
that's
feel
very
proud,
nice.
like you actually, somebody actually made it through the curriculum and the system over 20 years and then is
And
doing
made it their own.
something different. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I wish all teachers were like that.
Yeah.
They could they could be proud of their students, but such is life.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And martial arts is so insignificant compared to deep relationships that it didn't matter if I agreed with everything he's doing or not because I'm not him. And he has
Yeah,
his own background and reasoning and studies and he does lots of arts I've never done, There's lots of experiences. So I'm really
yeah.
enjoying
Was it? I
watching him
think it was
expand.
one of Buddhist students said to him. He said, "Good, good friendships or virtuous friendships is half of the path."
Yeah.
And the Buddha said, actually, virtuous friendship is all of the path. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
agree. Relationships are much more important than
Yeah.
silly martial arts games.
Yeah. But anyway, I was just mentioning the book because I thought, based on your interest, the chapter on the Qigong, the Sanchen, and then jump ahead to the chapter on the mind and the breath would be interesting for you to take a look
Yeah,
at.
I'll
Yeah.
yeah, I'll definitely. I've got it. I've got it. It's on my to read list.
Oh, I know. I've got
Um,
tons. I've got tons.
I've got a few of your. I don't know if it's yours, but from Tambuli,
Oh,
I've got
no.
a few books because there's not much other books out there on our systems, on our
Right.
Fujian systems,
Right.
and you seem to put out a lot of quality content on there,
Oh,
so it's
thank you.
always good
Trying.
to
There's
to
just not
read
a big
those.
audience, but you're just
I
trying to
love the
do it
book
for the
on
art, you know?
uh, the Taizu Chuan book was written a few
Yeah,
years
we
ago.
published that. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that book. That was a
That's a
good
good
book.
book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was written by Zhou Kunming in
yeah,
Quanzhou, and he's one of the seniors of Taizu. And so many principles in there, right? And the
yeah,
background and the oral keys or the kyun kit, however you want to
yeah,
say it, are in that book. It's a great book. Simon Laley, a friend of mine, and his Chinese teacher did the translation, and then I did the layout and publishing of it. But the original was given to me by John Graham, who's a five ancestor fist teacher and was
yeah.
one. I think he was the 11th chairman of the South Shaolin Wuzhu Federation. And is there a takeaway for yourself? I know when I write, I've written a ton, and I know that at the end of writing, when you're ready to publish, you're like, man, I didn't know I knew so much about this, especially these three things connected that I didn't realize until you sat down and actually think about it all in one period of time instead of a 10-second snippet in class or a 1 minute dialogue. Were there some things in Sanjan that really clicked for you as you were writing that you were like, man, yeah, like your own light bulbs went off?
I think the first thing that that occurred to me when I finished it was like, oh my God, this is so bad. Who's going to want to read this?
Well, you
That's the
know,
first thing that
that's the
happened.
light bulb going off, not on.
Yeah. And what I really enjoyed when I read it back to myself during the editing
Yeah,
process was seeing how, so you see some systems tell you all we need to focus on is the internals, all we need to focus on is the breath and the chi and all of that. But how the body method within our Sanjan systems, and I can't say that all systems are like this, but within our Sanjan systems, how the body method and the internals have to work together. You can't you can't separate them. So, for example, if we're doing a sinking movement or a spiraling movement, if the mind is able to do that inside the arm, then the chi does that inside the arm. So later on, you can just put your hand like this, and if you've trained it enough, the mind and the chi does that, the same power comes through without you even needing to do this.
Mhm.
So, and it's because the body method was trained with it's a holistic thing that needs to be trained together. And I think I didn't really understand that correctly before I wrote that book because I thought you could do the body method, the hard qigong, get strong, and you could do the other thing, and they could be separated as well. And sometimes I used to teach it that way, do this aspect, but later I thought actually it should always be taught as a whole system because they inform each other,
Mhm.
and it really is a system. It's not a form, a Sanjan form, and that's it. 11 movements or whatever it is. It is a system of practice that you have to have to put together.
Is there a sequence in which you're teaching that system? What is your process for unfolding that system to the students?
So the first thing we do is we have a, a foundation level where they obviously have to learn how to hold the stance, how to hold the horse stance, how to hold the Sanjan walking stance, and how to put their elbows in. You know, some people they can't bring their elbows in because they've got no scapular movement. Uh, so how to put their elbows in. So that's the foundation level, and that can take about 4 to 6 weeks.
Mhm.
When they start, I just get them how to stand. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect for 4 to 6 weeks, but then I teach them the choreography of our first Sanjan form. Just the choreography. Don't worry about breathing. Don't worry about the hard exhalations, the holding of the breath, because you can damage your pelvic floor, you can damage your perineum if you don't have that trained. So I just teach them the choreography. And they train the choreography for a few months, just the choreography. Then I grade them on the choreography, and then I teach them our next Sanjan form,
Mhm.
which is slightly different, but it's still like the closing part is slightly different than the closing part of the first one. So I think the first one comes from White Crane and the second one comes from Taizu Chuan. So
Mhm.
it's a bit harder and it's got all of this
Yeah.
finishing stuff. So
Is there a different name for it? The second
so
Sanjan?
we call it Sanjan Li Ma, which is horse shuffling Sanjan or horse
Okay.
riding Sanjan.
Mhm.
And the difference is with the first Sanjan, the three forward, three back movement, we step, thrust, grip, break. The second Sanjan, we don't step, we shuffle
Got it.
and shuffle and shuffle. So that's the difference. And the closing is different as well.
Yeah.
So then what I do during that is I start to slowly introduce them to the breath. I introduce them to the tiger face we call,
Yeah.
and how to hold that and how that works with connecting up the lines of the body.
Mm.
And then I start to gently introduce them to that hard breathing that comes with the holding, and then over time, as they get stronger, as their pelvic floor and their perineum control gets better, then we can start to harden that breath more and more. And then we do Sanjan catching practice, so partner posture testing the Sanjan, and then when I can see they're a bit more robust enough, they're doing the Sanjan, and I get seniors to hit them just to toughen them up a bit. So that's the process, really. Yeah. And then we get to, and that will take them up to a year and a half. And then we introduce them to the first fighting form, which we call Shutze, uh, which is very similar, I think, to your 20 punches or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Punch, step, punch, step.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're introduced to our other Sanjan form in about year 3 or year 4,
Okay.
which is Tiandi Lianjan, which is the
Heaven
heaven
man.
earth,
Hmm.
yeah, heaven man earth Sanjan, and then that they can start working the up and down vertical power a bit more. Uh, and it's not as hard as the first two Sanjans, but they're
Mm,
working these spirals and down and up and
right.
changing and all of that. So yeah, it's a gradual process for them.
Nice. It seems like a slow progress for, I mean, a proper progress for Kung Fu guys, but for beginners coming in, do you find people looking around and getting bored, and is there a high turnover rate? I mean,
Yeah, I'm very clear on what my school is. I always
mhm,
say it's a traditional training school. And there are people that come in, younger people, influencers, things like that, that come in and go, "Oh, can I learn I'm here to learn sword pattern." Yeah. And I'm like, actually, you'll probably reach the sword form in year 5 or 6 of your training. You'll reach the staff form in year 2.5 or 3 of your training, because we need to get you to you can't even control your hands properly. How are you going to
right.
control a staff?
Yeah, yeah,
So those people come and they go. But I tend to attract serious people. So
yeah,
the turnover is, and my seniors are quite good. They're quite dedicated. So people come in and see my seniors who've been training for 6 years, 7 years. I've got some who've been training 10 years now, and they see they're good. And when they come into the Sandar classes with them, they've got skill, they're quite good. And they're like, okay, this must be the way to train. So yeah, I tend to attract the correct kind of people, I think.
That's good. Is there
Yeah.
other training in the class, like line drills, fitness training, stretching, in addition to the form? Because it's an
Yeah,
hour class.
yeah, so the forms has its own dedicated class, and
Ah,
we train. It's because everyone's on a different form, right? You can't run a class and teach one form, and there'll be people who I'm not on that form yet.
right.
So we have dedicated forms classes, I think 3 or maybe 4 a week, where people come for an hour and they just drill their forms, and I'm there. Or my wife Christina, who also teaches, she's there and she's correcting, teaching, fixing. Our main kung fu classes are everyone forms up and we work on the theme of the day or the theme of the week. And everyone then is doing the same thing. That's a bit more exciting. We have half an hour strength and conditioning classes, which are tough. So I get people strong and fit very quickly. So they come, and half an hour of calisthenics, hard, interval, high, what's it called? HIIT, whatever.
Hit,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, hit
High
training, half an
intensity
hour.
interval training.
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So half an hour of that, and we do that 6 days a week.
Wow.
So, and then obviously there's the Shuang classes. We do kickboxing, sandar classes. We teach 50 classes a week.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So this is serious kung fu school. Good on
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. When you were younger, you got introduced to Sufism or Sufism, and that is basically a path of love and a path of the mystic core of Islam, some people say. Um, and I'm curious, what age was that you entered into that path?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I I've always really been interested in religion and spirituality. And when we came to this country, obviously going to school here, we were introduced to Christianity, and I started reading the Bible. Must have been 8 or 9, or maybe 7 or 8, and I was
Wow.
reading like a children's version of the Bible,
Yeah.
not the big book, but color pictures, stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and in the Old Testament. And I was really attracted to the Old Testament, and this is amazing. And I'd say to my parents, "Oh, the Bible is so good." So when we went back to visit my country with my parents, I think I was 8 or 9. I think I was 8. And one of my aunties, she was a really devout Muslim. She was a Sufi from the Shadili order,
Oh, okay.
which is very prominent in Iraq, Syria, that area, and said, "Oh, Shakar's about to become a Christian. Go introduce him to Islam." So I was there for 6 weeks in that first visit, and I spent 6 weeks basically most of the time at my auntie's house, and she would introduce me to basic Islam, teaching me how to pray, teaching me the prayers, but then doing it from the angle of her Sufi angle, so a bit more mystical, which you wouldn't get normally from a normal preacher or a normal
Right.
teacher. And then I would go back once or twice, like every couple of years I'd go back, or maybe once a year I'd go back and spend time with her. And as I grew older, the teaching would deepen, and the understanding would deepen. And I remember when I was 14, maybe 14, yeah, and we were talking about the the Muslims saying La ilaha illallah, which means there
Right.
is no God but
Yep.
Allah. And she said, I don't want you to think about it as there is no God but Allah. I said, okay, what shall I think about it as? She went, think about it as there is no thing but Allah. There is nothing but Allah. So I went, what does that mean? I'm a thing, of course. She went, well, think about it. And then that kind of started me on a whole path of non-dualism and all of
Right.
this stuff. So that was how I was introduced to it. Most of my introduction was probably in my teens and 20s. Obviously, early introduction when I was much younger, but I was too young to understand all that stuff. But I really dived deep into it in my teens and 20s.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you join an order back in the UK, or we just continued with your aunt's teaching and sticking with what they were doing? And she was
Um,
introduced.
so the UK at that time was a bit of a problem
Mm,
because so I obviously when I came back here, I looked for orders. I didn't think of it as orders because she never told me at that time this is Sufism. It's
right.
just Islam. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd go to a local mosque, which turned out to be run by a terrorist. Uh, and we had like a in our secondary school, in our high school, we had a group of Muslim boys who'd get together and we'd pray and at lunch times and we'd discuss Islam and stuff. And then suddenly uh, people were coming in under the pretense that they were coming to teach and help us lead prayers, but they were encouraging the young boys, us, you should go and help your Muslim brothers and sisters in Chechnya.
Ugh,
Chechnya was the thing at the
they
time.
were recruiting.
So
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, and it was there was a time where I started to get quite extreme. Yeah, I remember saying to my parents, I remember saying to my mum, you need to wear a headscarf, blah, 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 stuff like that. I was 16, 15, 14, 15, 16, and yeah, really angered my dad. And my dad, yeah,
He's like, we should have never
was,
taken him to see Auntie.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But then I went back at 16 and my dad took me back to her and said, he's talking about jihad. You need to fix this. And then she really introduced me to the mystical side, and I
Yeah.
saw through all the other stuff that were the recruiting stuff. Um, so yeah, so I decided not to join any orders or get involved because I didn't really need to, and I was going away from Islam at the
Right.
time. So it might sound strange, but the ideas within Sufism, yes, it's the mystical side of Islam, but these ideas existed in Arabia when Islam came. Islam
Absolutely.
came,
Right.
occupied the area, and all of these mystics, maybe Zoroastrians, maybe Parsis, maybe Advaita, whatever, these people thought, okay, well, I don't want my head chopped off. So, yes, I'm a Muslim, but they started to carry on their own practices.
Right.
So, yes, of course, in this day and age, you can't separate Sufism from Islam because it's wearing those garments. But it's, in my opinion and in my experience, uh, it's you can engage with these practices at a much deeper level than the cloak of a particular religion.
Yeah, I agree.
It's fascinating how close Sufi cosmology is to Taoist cosmology.
Very
It's
close. Yeah.
it's incredibly close because it's the whole idea within Sufi cosmology is you've got the absolute in his absoluteness. Yeah,
Right.
this is the description. Absolute in his absoluteness, which is the only way we can describe something we can never describe, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Too
And
big
this is
to
very
wrap our
yeah,
head around.
this is very similar to Wuji, or the emptiness before
The
the
creation.
arising of Yang. Yeah, the
Right.
arising of Yang movement. And then within Sufism, you say the Ibn Arabi, especially his
Yeah.
cosmology is very deep. He says, um, within the absolute in its absoluteness, there arose the potential for all of creation.
Yeah.
And because of how much overflowing of love the Absolute had, he decided to bestow on creation to know him, to
Right.
know the Absolute. And the way and what creation is, so creation is not separate from the creator, but the creator is veiled from creation.
Yeah.
So the path of creation is a constant veiling of the absolute until we are here. And the path of return is the path of unveiling,
Unveiling.
unveiling, unveiling. And the first emanation in Islam or in Sufism is the 99 names, right?
Yeah.
And most people that I don't, in my opinion, most people don't really understand the 99 names. The 99 names are very similar to the I Ching of Taoism. They are a blueprint for creation. The 99 names is a blueprint for creation. So all of creation descends down from the 99 names. So within Sufism, our aim as human beings is to embody the 99 names. These are the archetypes of creation. They are still within creation, but our aim is not to have compassion, but to be compassion,
Right.
not to have love or love something, but to be love. And then that leads to unveiling, that leads
Right.
to the realization that, like the Sufi mystic Al-Hallaj said, I am the truth. And they killed him for it. But yeah,
Right.
heresy. But
Right.
but that's the truth. And yeah, so
Very good.
yeah,
And
very, very similar.
Advaita is the same thing because it's like there was one with no second, and
Yeah,
everything else is, is an illusion basically, or
yeah.
we're in the matrix. I mean, that's all we got
Yeah,
to say.
exactly. It's a
We're in
simulation.
the
It's a
matrix.
simulation. Yeah,
But
100%.
all the, and but that kind of study, whether it's Sufism or Taoism or Advaita Vedanta or yoga, it, or even Christianity, it provides a spiritual core that a lot of martial artists don't get as part of the art. I think a lot of the arts that are taught that have some spirituality is just the spirituality of the teacher teaching it. You know,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
feel like they're always separate. You know what I mean? And it just so happens that, for example, in the Filipino martial arts, 90% of the teachers are Christian. Why? Or Catholic? Why? Because it's 80% and Catholic nation is the only Catholic nation in Asia because Spain ruled it for 344
Yeah.
years. So just by cultural circumstance, you growing up Catholic and you're doing the martial art, and all the guys doing the martial art are Catholic, it doesn't mean it's a
Mm.
Catholic martial art. And it's just like the Chinese doing who are Buddhist or Taoist or Confucian aren't. It's not that the Buddhism is part of the art, it's part of the culture and the people who are doing the art. So within
Yes.
China, you can't really separate the practice from those beliefs. In the United States, or the UK, in the West, we can separate them if the teacher's not, and most schools, or at least here in the US, aren't teaching spirituality and religion and the martial art. It's just the martial art devoid of it. But
Yeah.
I think that's it's sad because you need to have that yin and yang, right? You need to have the I'm here in this three-dimensional world that we can measure with our scientific tools, but we have to know that there's something greater than that. And we have to aspire to, as you were saying, the 99 names to embody and become those names, not just try and be compassionate like.
Let me see if you agree with this. Let me see if you agree with this. So I notice martial artists, traditional Chinese martial artists especially, who do not have an internal mystical practice. They're not able to harmonize with heart mind. They're not able to lead their movements from the shin,
Yep.
from the heart mind. I feel there's this disconnect. And I watch the people, the martial artists, Chinese martial artists who have an internal practice, have a mystical core. You could really see how their heart mind manifests in their
Yeah.
movements. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's just an observation I've had.
Yeah. Just saying, I would say I agree. And what came to me was, well, when the Cultural Revolution came, and it's like, let's get rid of religion
Mm.
and all these, Zen and Chan monasteries were being knocked down and monks thrown in prison. Red Pine has a nice book about that called Zen Baggage, all about that, and then how they came back later after the 80s and were able to start rebuilding. Buddhism was almost dead in the country. So I think the reason certain arts don't have that is because for quite a period of time it was ostracized, the religious beliefs. So I think there's just something in that in the culture. I could be totally misplaced in this thinking too, that because of that separation for a while, it's hard to come back. And I think like styles like Wing Chun, for example, which are thought to be, or boxing, Choi Li Fut, to be fighting styles and sparring styles, street fighting styles. The people looking to do those aren't spiritually minded people. Yeah,
I think saying all this about spirituality, I think in this day and age, spirituality is something people shouldn't explore so quickly. I think spirituality has become a way to bypass dealing with yourself. I think that's an issue. I think people are very anxious. People are very hurt. People are very confused. They can't function in their relationships. They can't function in their society, and they talk about spirituality. And I think they would do much better if they talked about, instead of spiritual cultivation, talk about self-cultivation.
agree.
Cultivate yourself, become stronger. Don't if you're already weak and you have no strength, sitting in meditation is not going to help you.
Right.
Do some push-ups, Um, and this is Bodhidharma's teaching, isn't it? That gave these physical. You said you've got the 12 exercises. Ours is five. We've got five exercises that standing
Yeah,
Bodhidharma exercises, which are really tough on the body,
they're tough.
stretching, opening.
Yeah,
Uh, so I think a lot of people. I think everybody. I think spirituality is not something you can do. I think the only thing you can do as a human being is self-improvement. And then you'll get to a point, if you're ready, spirit will come and meet you.
yeah.
You can't, do you know what I mean? It's like trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. If there is no you, how can you go and do this thing? So you can only, as the Sufis say, um, you can clean your heart, make it ready. So if the beloved wants to come and visit, there is space for it. But as long as you exist, and all of your baggage exists there, then there's no space for your beloved. So
Hmm.
don't try and meet for the beloved. Leave a space for your beloved to come. So I think people would do much better than chasing spiritual feelings or states through psychedelics or through going to the Himalayas or going to this place or going to that place for a 2 week retreat. I think we much better fix yourself, look at the self-reflection we're talking about at the beginning, see why you react the way you do, see how your nervous system has been primed, fix your relationship with your family, and then maybe you can start to have some openness and space for something that is beyond you to come and guide you somewhere else.
Yeah. We have I don't know if it caught on in the UK, but there's a term here in the US called spiritual bypassing.
Yeah,
And
I know that face.
yeah, so it's basically people have all these problems, and what they do is they bypass the problems and jump on spirituality and like, oh, I'm born again Christian and forget all the nasty stuff I've done because now I'm this or I'm a whatever. And that's absolutely the wrong way to go. And like you said, you have to remove the veils, right? So that's like taking away your anger and your ego, and your bitterness and your jealousy and all these things. I think
It's the first stage of alchemical practice, isn't it?
right.
What's it called? The nigredo or something, the blackening, where you
Hmm.
have to where you have to actually, for the first time, explore your mind. You meet your mind, who you really are, what your reactions are. And when you've done that, when you can start to see how your reactions are not actually you, but they're program patterns,
Yeah.
then you can start to go to the next stage where you can start to untangle them. But you can't do that. You can't do any of the later practice if you do not deal with yourself. What's the point if you go to a Vipassana retreat, have an incredible experience of uh, insight, then on your first day back, you get stuck in a traffic jam, and you're shouting at people and you can't deal with your own anger? No, you need to be able to be compassion, you know what I mean? Going back to
Right.
that, you can't, it's not an act, you can't put on an act. And the only way you can do that is the unveiling and the realizing of meeting your mind and trying to deal with that. Hard
I
work.
I agree. Yeah. Jung called it the shadow, right? You have to get in touch with
Mm,
your shadow side. I always think when people ask me, say like, well, this Swami came to the West and they were very holy, but then they started all of a sudden they got a collection of Bentleys and they're dressing sharp and they're uh, taking everyone's money and abusing women. Like, they're all fake gurus. I'm like, no, they were real in India where there was nothing else to do but sit in the ashram and eat dal. And like you were saying, you go to a 10-day Vipassana retreat and you sit all day without talking in meditation, or if you go to the Himalayas into a cave and meditate, it's so easy to find bliss when there's nothing challenging your brain, your eyes, your ear, your smell, your any of the senses. But you need that practice to come in a Western society. Like, that's why so many of the Chan Buddhists, they part of the majority of the practice is through work. And I heard you saying to Damo Mitchell on his talk with you that when you were learning the way of the Sufi, a lot of it was to humble yourself and clean the boots of other people. You know,
yeah.
Ram Dass talked about having to feed people in the area that he was in, and he didn't like a lot of them, but he had to humble himself to do it because part of the teaching is to get rid of those dark emotions and feelings that arise in consciousness and just replace it with genuine, love and
And
acceptance,
also
gratitude.
w- within, but if we look at Qigong practice and Nei Gong practice, when you are actually building qi in the body, and by qi, I don't mean sensations that come on your fingers or hands, but I mean real qi cultivation in your body. The first place it goes to is it goes to your mind. So if there are things in your mind that you haven't dealt on, it feeds it. That's why some people say, should I, Qigong can cause psychosis, or Qigong is bad for mental health. Yeah, because the first thing it does is it feels it fuels your mind. It fuels your emotional state. So a guru who comes from India or who comes from the Middle East, where they've got issues around women and sexuality and repressions and like that, and they haven't dealt with that. All of this cultivate, and they're very skilled. Do you know what I mean? These people, it's not like they're not fake. They are skilled gurus. They're skilled teachers. They have energetic systems. You can see their presence is huge, but it starts to feed these things they haven't untangled, they haven't worked through, and then, as you say, they've lived off dal in India, and then they come here, go to and have a croissant. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God,
And a steak
I'm
dinner.
addicted. Yeah, and a steak
Yeah.
dinner. Then that's they haven't dealt with that. Do you know what I mean?
And women
So
showing their midriff,
yeah,
they're not
yeah, yeah,
covered.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
hard. It's hard. It's hard to even know if you're in, say, in a country that has these issues around women and their bodies are covered, and it's all for the protection of the women and to dampen lust in men and et cetera, et cetera. But then to have to be in an environment where you're confronted with it all the time, you've never had an environment to have to deal with or work through it. It's just not been
Yeah,
there. So if you're
yeah.
always just learning martial art forms and you've never had somebody attack you or even just nudge you in a bar and shout in your face and throw some adrenaline at, and aggression at you, you have no way to deal with that because
I
you've
think
just
that's a
done
great analogy because you can get a world champion forms champion, right? So this person you cannot lie. Their kung fu they're world champion, right? Put them in a ring with somebody, they're gonna. It doesn't mean their
right,
kung fu's bad, but they just haven't dealt with that. So that's a great, and
right.
I'm gonna use that.
All right, just put the footnote on there.
Yeah, trademark.
Yeah, trademark Wiley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Negong a little bit and Qigong. In addition to Sanjan, um, are there other practices that were taught to you earlier or that you developed or that you learned later on and brought into your curriculum today?
So within our school, we learnt um, a specific set of exercises, which they called they also called Bodhidharma's I Ching Jing. Yeah. So we have the standing exercises, which are the static movements and stretching and opening.
Yeah,
Uh, and that's 5 exercises. Then we have 14 exercises, which are it's a movement exercise, which it's also called Bodhidharma's I Ching Jing.
yeah,
It looks similar to the Baduan Jin exercises, to be honest, but I've never seen it anywhere else. And that's the Qigong system that I mainly practice, and also how to within that system, how to connect the arms, connect the hands to the Dantian, build the Dantian, and work this Dantian to build chi, to store it as a battery. And then from my other practices of um, like the Hermetics and stuff, there because some of the practices also work with the Dantians, but they don't call them Dantians; they call them something else. And there are parts of that which are useful to help. It's helped my own training, and I sometimes use it to help students, guide them to how it's like a different approach to it. If they don't understand it from the Chinese context, I can help them from the Western context because they're Western minds most of the time.
yeah.
So, but most of those practices are that, and a lot of it I've worked out for myself. A lot of it is just trial and error. This doesn't work. This works. My friend Damo Mitchell has been really helpful because he's he knows all of this stuff. So every time I have a question that I'm lost on or something, I just send him a WhatsApp, and then I'm like, "Oh, I've got this trouble here. What is this? How do I deal with this or that?" And he's always really helpful. So yeah, it's a bit of an amalgamation of different things, but I've put it into a coherent thing that I'm teaching my own students.
Hmm. We're in a what do they call it? Information age, like never
Mm,
before with YouTube and Google and AI. Just even forget AI for a minute. Just having Amazon.com. I mean, I started martial arts 46 years ago, and when I
yeah,
started traveling through Asia in the early 90s, you had to like send letters to connect to
yeah,
people. Like there wasn't email yet. There was no email really globally yet, and it was so hard to find teachers. You'd had to write to the publisher, or do you have a current contact for the teacher who wrote this book, and go
wow,
and get people to introduce you. Then you'd get there, and he wouldn't be there, but you'd be able to meet somebody else, or maybe they'd take you to somebody else. And now just the amount of information just for an inquisitive mind of a martial artist who's matured or an internal practitioner who's matured in their art and their learning, they can glean a lot of great things from that. You
I
know,
agree.
I don't think I think you need to have a lineage of something to get your core right and your understanding correct. But
Yeah,
after you have that, I think you can learn from any book, from any video, from just we could say one thing in this conversation that tips one of our ideas in a direction,
yeah. I,
or et
I
cetera.
think also what's important to note is, especially with qigong and internal work, I think a lot of the older text, a lot of the symbolic, the classical texts should not be treated as instructional.
Right.
And I think it goes to what you're saying, that you should have a lineage and a practice, instead of just picking it up as a day one student and thinking you can learn it from this. I think most of these texts should be confirmatory.
Yes,
So
yes.
so you're reading it and you're going, I understand this because I experienced this in my practice.
The
This is
experience
what
has
they
to come
mean.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people think that they can pick up a book, day one beginner, and learn a spiritual, a mystical system, a qigong system, a Nei Gong system, I think that they end up just going into fantasy world,
Right.
which 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 is fine for them, but they're not getting the practice
Right.
as it should be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of those old Chinese books were written in a time that in a language or speech patterns that aren't even used in modern China,
Yeah.
and with traditional characters that aren't even in use anymore, and the ones that we've had translated, and there's been a bunch, are helpful, but they're not in depth. They were like there as reminders for the students of that teacher or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But we're grateful to have them, certainly.
And
Um,
hands-on transmission is really important.
that's the
You
most
need
important.
to, you have to have hands-on transmission. And also, a good teacher transmits without even having to talk.
Yeah,
They hold a space for students, and the students can just feel maybe through somatic empathy, through something else. But the students, like I say to my students, here's the dantian. Can you feel? And then something's happening in that room where if they were not in that room, they wouldn't be able to get that awareness in the correct place, that attention, the mind in the correct place. So in-person training, especially for the internal arts, is paramount, I think.
I have a few disciples I teach on Zoom. They're spread out, and there's only so much you can do until they come and see you. You
Yeah.
know, they learn all the choreography. They can do strength and relaxation. They can breathe in time with the breathing. They can clear their mind, but without the touching, the moving, the pressing, the listening, of the
Mm.
teacher, uh, they can't get further, let alone any of the hands-on things. You can only do so many line drills on your own,
Yeah,
without a partner.
no, I agree. I
Yeah,
have an online school. I have an online school where I
yeah,
teach the Tiger Crane and I teach the Shuang. And sometimes I get messages from people who day one beginners. Oh, is there a pathway for me to teach this
right,
through your online school? And I'm like, there may be, but it will be after you've come and seen me many times because you're not going to become a teacher through an online course.
right.
This is just for you to look to see the system, learn mainly the choreography, maybe a bit of the internals if you can emulate what I'm trying to say. But you need to be with me to learn my method.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's important.
hmm One of the main things I always found with a teacher is you could feel something from them, whether it's you saying in your class, do you feel the dantian, or they press you in a certain way, or they connect with you in a certain way when your arms are touching, bridging, and it's an experience that you don't forget, right? And or through with them, and they're giving you corrections on your thrusting, for example, over and over and over, and then you get one exactly right, and they acknowledging it. There's a feeling to that's in the mind body that happened in that moment that now you can try to emulate when you're on your own. But if you never had the teacher there, there's no way you would know when it's correct because the
Yeah,
picture and the video and you all look the same.
yeah. It's a
Yeah,
guessing game, otherwise. It's just a guessing game.
right, right.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Is meditation part of your practice personally and or in the club?
Yeah, so meditation is a part of my own practice.
Hmm.
And I do meditation and energetic courses for my students
Nice.
separate to the martial arts. So I hold
Yeah.
seminars. But what I'm trying to do mainly for them is, again, meditation to me means a specific thing, right? Meditation isn't mindfulness, isn't um calming your breath. These are all steps towards meditation, but you want to get to a state where you get into absorption, where duality disappears,
Hmm.
there's one. So what I'm teaching beginners is the path towards meditation, where I'm teaching them the things I was talking about, how to how to be able to sit, first of all, like just sitting in meditation, holding that posture for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I get them to start with 10, 15 minutes. People can't do it. So how are you going to teach people meditation if they can't sit still for 10 minutes? So I teach them how to sit, then I teach them how to build discernment of what is being in the body, what is thought arising. And to do that, and over time you'll catch the thought quicker and quicker and quicker, and suddenly you'll notice the seeds of the thought before it's even arisen, and you can just return to the body, you can return to the object of your practice, whatever that may be. um, and then we go into calm abiding, how to just be able to sit, be with the breath, and we gradually build that towards meditation. But meditation is like meditation proper is hard. It's not everyone can do that. Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, pulling away the veils of the ego, of the thinking, of the hearing, the smelling, the getting that song out of your head you can't get out of your
Mm,
head all day,
mm,
is unbelievably difficult. And turning the eyes back around on yourself, to say, who is it that's hearing these sounds, and
yeah,
who is it that's thinking these thoughts? And people think there's free will. If you can't stop that song from just jumping up in your head at random, or that argument that you're having in your head with somebody from 20 years ago,
yeah.
there's no free will. If you have no will to keep that from coming, you have to earn that free will, which is
And you have to be comfortable in yourself,
right.
because a lot of people, I've had students who I'm teaching the beginnings of sitting practice, and just being alone with their minds,
Oh yeah.
they panic. Extreme fear arises because you need to deal with yourself. If you have resentment, if you have guilt, if you have fear, if you have hatred, these things will arise when your mind quietens down. So you'll never be able to get into any deep state of meditation. So a big part of the work of spiritual practice, the deeper spiritual practice is self-cultivation. You need to work on your mind. You need to look at why you think the things that you think, why you react the way you do to things, and then untangle them, untangle them, untangle them. As you said, and as Young says, dealing with your shadow. Because if there's a shadow there, then you're always going to be falling into that, even
Yeah.
whenever you're trying to quieten.
Yeah, you said a very good word, cultivation, and a lot of martial artists and practitioners of anything ignores the word cultivation. I mean, you can learn a skill. Anybody can learn a choreography of a pole or a sword or a kata or form, but
Mm,
to master it has to be cultivated. And what does that mean? I mean, that's a whole study in itself. The art of cultivating something within yourself, whether it's the
yeah.
stillness, the no mind, right, or if it's the perfect movement in a sanjan for just one step in sequence,
Mm.
with the mind not wandering, the breath is aligned, the energy moves, the joints move correctly. The cultivation is the longest road. The learning of the stuff is relatively easy.
Yeah,
The
in my
framework,
view, the cultivation is the path. The path
right?
is cultivation. You're constantly refining. You're constantly feeding this
Yeah.
flame, cultivating it, making sure it's the right shape. This is the path. It never ends. It never ends.
And without a teacher who's cultivated those things and come up to mastery, you'll never get it because they're not imparting the high skills and the pointers along the way for you to cultivate.
And you're embedding your own mistakes, you're embedding your own errors,
Right.
because we are all biased, right?
Yeah.
We're all going to want to go the path of least resistance, and this is easier to do, so this must be correct. You lie to yourself. Your ego says, just do this, this is fine. You do this, and you start off an inch off, and then down the road you're many kilometers off the point you were supposed to go. So that's why you need a teacher to kick you back onto the line every now and again, to make sure
Mhm.
you're not straying too far off because of your own ego and your own biases.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a need for traditional martial arts today?
I think there's a need for traditional practice, whether it's martial arts, whether it's traditional tea ceremonies, I think we need to go back to structure, to discipline, and to teach, especially young people, the importance of perseverance through something that is incredibly difficult and requires an immense amount of attention to detail. I obviously am biased and I would say, yes, traditional martial arts is the best of things, but trying to not be biased, it doesn't have to be martial arts. There are some ballerinas, for example,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
incredible skill. They couldn't punch their way out of a paper bag, but incredible skill, body control, poise. The heart is there, the heart mind is there. And I just think people need to understand that not everything in life is about finding a quick hack.
Hmm.
This is the, is there a hack for this? Is there a hack for that? No, there is no hack. You need to do the work. And I think if we can get people back to that mindset, which I'm not hopeful because it's people are now using AI for everything. If we can get our people back to that, I think the world will be in a much sturdier place. The young people will be much better equipped to deal with the coming trials and tribulations that society is going to throw at them because the world is getting worse and worse. Our politics is getting worse and worse. Suffering is getting worse and worse. And I don't know how it is in the United States, but in America, in the UK, um, young people under 30 are increasingly become not working. They've just like there's no reason for me to work. I'm never going to own my own home. I'm never going to earn anything more than my parents. So there's this increasing number of people, young people, they're called the NEET, NEAT, not in education or employment or something. I can't remember the thing. Yeah, they're not studying or working. They're just playing Fortnite or they're
Yeah.
playing computer games. And there's no structure, there's no discipline. Obviously, we have lots of kids in our school. We train lots of kids, and the parents love the discipline that I give the kids. I'm very strict with them. I teach them very traditionally. Stand up, sit down, don't lean, don't lie down, sit up straight, posture up, do your movements properly. And we have grading structures, we strengthen their body. So to me, I'm biased. I think traditional martial arts is one of the best things because it works them physically, mentally, energetically, and if it calls to them spiritually, but I think any traditional practice would be
Would be better.
helpful for society.
Yeah. I think those practices, including, baking from scratch, it brings a center back to you and a hands-on, a something that there's a mentor, there's you, and there's products, flour, water, eggs that you're working with, or gardening, martial arts, there's the movements, and you're not on your phone. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
this flipping through your phone. I mean, I find myself sometimes so interested in lectures I'm listening to that it's like an hour go by. I'm like, stop, man. I just got
But we
sucked
all
in.
do it.
It's
Yeah, we all do it.
crazy. And I've got 4 kids, um, three in college, one grown, and it's hard to get them off those chat sites and to care about what people are saying. You don't even know these people.
Mm.
They're on Discord and they're getting bullied. It's like delete, gone, problem
But
solved.
you and I know this, but we still,
But
as you say, sometimes get
I
stuck
no,
in this
that's why
thing.
it's so
Yeah.
hard. It's so
Now
addictive.
imagine a young person
It's
who
the
doesn't
cocaine
have
of the
that
masses.
metacognition. Yeah, it's
It's the
incredible.
heroin.
Yeah,
It's a sugar treat. Like, oh, new Sanjan form. Look, I found it.
yeah. But that's
It's
how it's designed, isn't it?
but it keeps you from paying attention to the politics and the suffering and the pain and the not working of the kids and what are we going to do and takes you away from your cultivation. Even if
Yeah.
you know I think we just need to find pockets of no phone, which is great while you're teaching or the kids are in class, right?
Mm.
Adults need to do it too. um and
I
or
do. I tend to so I'm quite active on social media because I'm obviously spreading
it's
my
your
stuff and my
business. Yeah.
yeah. But there are times where I just take a month off. So I say I'm going to concentrate on my own practice,
Yeah.
bye friends, and then I just disappear for a month and I don't don't turn any. I use my phone to message people or to
Yeah.
call or whatever, but I don't
It's like
engage.
fasting. It's hard for like
Yeah,
three
yeah,
days.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
hard for like 3.5 days, and then you're not so hungry for the
yeah,
material. Like you're not hungry for food after that if you're
yeah,
fasting, you
yeah.
know.
It's all the
It's all
messed
mental.
up dopamine. Yeah, but it's all the
Yeah,
messed up dopamine hormones that it messes with your brain, and you just
yeah,
have to deal with it. It's just detox from it,
yeah.
and you should be fine.
Dopamine detox. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. Well, this has been a terrific conversation. I've really enjoyed talking with you, Shakar Sharif.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome.